I am such an awesome guy. I make so many videos.
Hello there, Price of Reason here with a series review. As many of you know, I haven't been especially pleased with the Ahsoka series on Disney+. Between the weak writing, poor storytelling, cringy dialogue, and lackluster performances, this show has yet to deliver. Still, every week I watch it in hopes that perhaps it will improve. And now that I've just watched episode 6, I definitely have some thoughts on it. In this video, I will discuss the episode's plot, what I liked about the episode, what I didn't like about the episode, followed by my official score. In episode 6, space whales who have swallowed Ahsoka's ship are taking her through hyperspace to where Boss Lady Morgan's ship went. So I guess she's kind of like Pinocchio now, but in space. Huyang the robot wants to tell Ahsoka a story from his archives, but she's not interested. Instead, Ahsoka tells Huyang that she didn't tell Hera the entire truth about Sabine, that based on her Force reading in episode 5, she believes that Sabine went with the enemy willingly to save Ezra, instead of stopping a potential war with Thrawn. Ahsoka is disappointed because she feels that had she trained Sabine properly, perhaps she would have made the right choice and destroyed the map. Huyang then implies that perhaps for Sabine, it was the right choice, so Ahsoka asks Huyang to tell her a story from the archive after all. Huyang then starts telling her a story, with the opening a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, as we see in the opening title cards for Star Wars movies. Personally, I didn't prefer this because Star Wars, in my opinion, should never be meta, but whatever. Anyhow, Sabine is being held in a cell on Boss Lady Morgan's ship. She reminds Sith Guy that they had a deal regarding Ezra, and he chuckles and leaves. Sith Guy then tells Boss Lady Morgan that he will honor the deal he made with Sabine because her desire to save Ezra Bridger blinds her, and she may still be of use to him. This kind of reminds me of how Dr. Evil refuses to kill Austin Powers for no apparent reason. But the only problem is that Austin Powers is a parody and Ahsoka is meant to be taken seriously. I mean, these guys already have the map, which is what they wanted. What possible use could they still have with Sabine, who isn't even a Jedi or Force sensitive, aside from some type of screenplay requirement? Anyhow, Boss Lady Morgan tells Sith Guy that they're arriving at a planet called Peridia, the ancient home of her ancestors, the Dathomiri. Sith Guy says that the Jedi Archive spoke of the planet, as it is the end of the migration route for the space whales to travel between two galaxies. While I do appreciate actor Ray Stevenson's effort to sell this line, when you really think about it, it's awfully convenient that he would really remember so much random info about some remote planet based on something he vaguely heard about decades ago. Boss Lady Morgan then one-ups Sith Guy and tells him that her people were the first to ever ride the space whales, so she's even more familiar with them. Sith Guy then has the final one-up on Boss Lady Morgan when he tells her that this planet is a graveyard for space whales because that's where they go to die. But if Boss Lady Morgan and Sith Guy are such experts on this planet and the space whales, why did they even need a map to get here, let alone a hyperspace ring? Sabine is taken with Boss Lady Morgan and her crew on a smaller ship to a planet as they receive coordinates on where to land. Sith Girl and Sabine look at each other as if they need to rent a hotel room or something, and since this is Disney Star Wars, I wouldn't even be shocked if this actually happened at some point. Next, we see the Night Sister witches greet Boss Lady Morgan and company. For those of you that are not familiar, the Night Sisters are witches that were first introduced in the animated series Clone Wars. But the real question is, why does every planet on this show look exactly the same? The witches say that they sense Sabine as a Jedi, although that's weird because she's not a Force user and is at best a Mandalorian posing as a Jedi. The witches have balls though, and they use them to control Sabine's movement as they lead her to another cell. Why do all the women on this show always play with balls? Sith Guy then privately tells Sith Girl that history has always repeated itself when it comes to Jedi and the Empire, and he's going to end this cycle by going back to the beginning, whatever the f*** that means. A big ship then arrives, and finally, 6 episodes into this snoozy show, we actually get to see Grand Admiral Thrawn, who was billed as the big bad guy of the series. Although this could possibly be a coincidence, Thrawn does look strikingly similar to Elon Musk, as Anna, that Star Wars girl, has pointed out on Twitter. Perhaps Disney aren't fans of Musk these days, and this is their way of showing it. In any case, Thrawn has a full guard of night troopers and one higher-ranking gold-faced trooper too. He thanks Boss Lady Morgan for coming together get him out of exile. She says that it'll take a few days before they can leave, without really explaining why, but I guess again that this is a screenplay requirement. The Night Sisters then tell Thrawn that Boss Lady Morgan has a prisoner. Sith Guy then says that he actually brought the prisoner because she might be useful. Boss Lady Morgan then explains to Thrawn that Sith Guy and Sith Girl are her mercenaries. Thrawn recognizes Sith Guy as a general within the Jedi Order, but Sith Guy tells him that he left the Jedi long ago. When Thrawn finds out that the prisoner is Sabine Wren, he agrees that she could be of use to them, so they bring her to him. And you know it's poor writing when every few minutes a character has to justify another character's presence by claiming that she may be useful at some point later on, but that's what happens when your screenplay is hanging by a thread. Again. Thrawn then thanks Sabine because her foolish actions will help him leave his exile. Sabine, of course, is standoffish and arrogant as usual, which creates an awkward situation. On the one hand, Thrawn is supposed to be the bad guy here. On the other hand, Sabine is so annoying that I'm actually rooting for him. Thrawn then tells Sabine that she's welcome to go find Ezra based on the intel that he has of Ezra's location. And he even gives her a space wolf to do so, but warns her that once his spaceship leaves, she'll be stranded on this planet forever. This is weird because I can't imagine Thrawn would ever take her with him, so what's the point of even telling her this? It's another Dr. Evil situation, which is already getting absurd because it wouldn't make sense to keep her alive. Goldface warns Sabine that there are dangerous nomads that she has to deal with as she leaves for her journey, but true to form, Sabine is unlikable and arrogant. Again. Then it turns out that Thrawn secretly has Sith Guy and Sith Girl follow Sabine. If she succeeds in finding Bridger, then he wants Sith Guy and Sith Girl to destroy them both. Sabine then gets ambushed by nomads that look like fancy red sand people. She first battles them with her blaster, but then ignites her lightsaber and defeats them. Thrawn then tells Boss Lady Morgan that Ren and Bridger, as well as Sith Guy and Sith Girl, can all stay on this planet as far as he's concerned, because he doesn't even care about them. Again, this is odd because if he didn't care, he could have just killed them all earlier. Meanwhile, Sabine is mad at the Space Wolf because he abandoned her when she was attacked by the fancy red sand people, but she agrees to give him another chance. Sabine and the Space Wolf then meet a turtle that looks and sounds like an Ewok, who has a similar Rebel Alliance symbol that Sabine has. Sabine asks the turtle Ewok if it was given to him by Ezra. Then a bunch of turtle Ewoks all come out. Her and the turtle Ewoks are cool now, so she follows them. After they find all the fancy red sand people that Sabine has killed, Sith Guy explains to Sith Girl that Ezra is a Boken Jedi, but she is something more. Sith Girl tells him that if everybody seems so eager to leave this planet, they should be leaving it too. But Sith Guy tells her that there's something on this planet that is calling to him, and I can only assume that he's referring to the screenplay that really needs him to go from A to B. They are then confronted by more fancy red sand people, and Sith Guy tells her that they won't fight them for now because the enemy of their enemy is their friend. This doesn't make much sense to me. Why would the fancy red sand people just try to kill them? Are they really looking to make allies? Does Sith Guy even speak their language to explain to them that they're not actually friends of Sabine who just killed their people? Anyhow, Sabine is taken to the Turtle Ewok village. Ezra Bridger is there and he tells her that he knew he could count on her to find him, but it sure took her a while. Even though the acting here isn't exactly great, I think this is a rare nice moment on the show, but really only for people who have actually watched Rebels, which is basically me and about 5 other people. It probably means nothing to anybody else. Ezra starts to ask Sabine questions on how she found him and how she has a space wolf, but Sabine doesn't want to answer. She tells him she needs time to enjoy this moment. Now this is a very odd answer because time is of the essence here. This is absolutely not the time for self-reflection. Also, Ezra seems to think that she's come to rescue him, but she doesn't mention Thrawn, Boss Lady Morgan, Sith Guy, or Sith Girl. Now this makes no sense at all as these are real threats. You don't sit on this type of information in a potentially dangerous situation. Even an arrogant, selfish dum-dum like Sabine would know better. The Night Sisters then tell Thrawn that they sense that Ahsoka Tano is coming to the planet via space whales, which is yet another convenience within a series of conveniences. Boss Lady Morgan says it's impossible because Sith Guy assured her that he killed Ahsoka. Thrawn then says that Sith Guy used to be a Jedi, so he's obviously unreliable. He then instructs Boss Lady Morgan to shoot down any space whales that approach the planet, and tells the Night Sisters that he's going to need them to use their dark magic. And perhaps if anybody has ever watched the Clone Wars animated show, which I have, this would actually mean something, but if you haven't watched it, it probably doesn't mean anything. And that's where the episode ends. Let's start with what I didn't like. Number 1, the writing. Every time I watch an episode of this series, I hope that they'll finally improve the writing, and every time I'm extremely disappointed. I don't know if Dave Filoni has a problem with live action versus animated shows, but the writing on Ahsoka to me seems like amateur level writing. It often appears that Filoni has some specific scenes that he wants to see in each episode, and then he just kind of fudges the screenplay around them. This is a huge mistake that is really hurting the show, because by doing this, both the dialogues and the characters end up suffering. Because of the poor writing, we never truly understand why anybody is doing what they're doing on this show, and therefore, we never really form a connection with the characters that we see on screen. For example, while it's nice that the Sith guy character is meant to be mysterious, this would only work if the show had overall quality writing. As it stands right now, the character feels very much like a J.J. Abrams type of creation, and no, that is not a compliment. Every episode he drops another clue about his motivations, but never really says anything of substance. Basically, the Sith guy character is just a walking, talking mystery box. We've already watched 75% of this series and still have no idea what this guy is doing or what he really stands for. Once again, this show is using a carrot and the stick type of storytelling, an approach that I don't prefer. Also, why is Thrawn initially even wasting time with all of these people instead of just killing them? He already has his ticket out of there, and if Thrawn has intel on where Ezra is located, access to an army, and some witches, why hasn't he already killed him during all of his years on this planet? After all, Ezra is the reason why Thrawn is stranded there to begin with. Also, what was Sabine's game plan going into this? She figured she'd go to the planet and also hope that Ahsoka would resurrect herself to come save them both? And intel or not, the speed and ease in which Sabine finds Ezra really cheapens this whole situation. Things just happen on this show because the screenplay needs them to, but there's no storytelling logic anywhere, and I'm really just scratching the surface here. Not to mention that so many things that happen on this show, and this episode specifically, rely too heavily on past animated shows. Now, even if you've watched them like I have, this show's writing is very underwhelming, but if you haven't, you may not even fully understand what it is you're seeing. This is really not a good writing strategy. Number 2, the visuals. You know how in a video game you finish one world and then you see another similar one? That's what this show is like, but with planets. There's always a circle, witches have balls, and only a handful of people live on each planet. And everything seems squeaky clean. I understand the limitations of filming on Lucasfilm's digital green screen studio, The Volume, but if that's the case, why don't they use more location shooting and practical effects? This video game feeling makes this show feel cheap at times, even with all the money that Disney Lucasfilm have thrown on it. Number 3, Sabine. For some reason, Lucasfilm writers always seem to think that if a woman has short hair and is sufferable all the time, that people will both like her and think she's a dude. For the 100th time though, it doesn't work. These characters always end up looking and acting like annoying little boys, and Sabine is no different. And most people don't even want to see that on a Star Wars show, which is why Sabine is such an unlikable character. She never shows an ounce of femininity, and I think that it doesn't help her character at all. If I had to point out some things that I did like about this episode, it's number 1, Ray Stevenson. In spite of the very poor material that the late actor was given, he still manages to steal every scene he's in, delivering every line as though he's doing Shakespeare at the West End in London. He almost manages to make you forget how bad the writing is, but at the end, it's an obstacle that even his impeccable acting simply can't overcome. It's really a shame that they couldn't do more with an actor of this caliber. Number 2, 2 men in one scene. After 6 episodes, it's finally happened. There are 2 male actors on screen at the same time, and they're talking to each other. And you know what? While it doesn't solve the show's bigger issues, it does bring some type of male-female balance here to the show, however brief. It also helps that both Ray Stevenson and Lars Mikkelsen are good actors that bring some type of gravitas to their roles. I wish we would have seen more interactions between them on this show, but I guess that wouldn't fit with Lucasfilm's agenda. Number 3, less Ahsoka. Now I know that this show is called Ahsoka, and she's supposedly the main character, but we saw a lot less of her this time, and I was actually okay with that. The Ahsoka character until now has been a complete bore, so taking a break from her was actually kind of refreshing. Again, I actually like Rosario Dawson, but I think she's being horribly misused here and misdirected on this show, to no fault of her own. While this episode had a few isolated moments that I didn't hate overall, unfortunately, the show's poor writing continues to weigh it down. If I had to give this episode a score, I would give it a 58 out of 100, like I did last time, which means that it's another fail. What did you think about Ahsoka Episode 6? Did you love it? Feel free to let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my channel and also clicking on that wonderful notification bell. Thanks for watching, my friends. Thank you, and good day.
I am such an awesome guy. I make so many videos. But I'm